think we need to also put that into consideration.
For me, I actually feel like if that kind of thing is happening to you as a person, or your relationship with don't shake your bottom, like something just happened. It can't just happen at once.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the KNTV Talk Show. I'm your host Omar Hasna Khadija and my co-host
Ayubami Ibrahim.
We have an amazing guest joining us today for today's session. Please, can you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name is Rukoya and I am glad to be here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Okay, so let's get into today's story. Rukaya, our story is based on a man who shared that he met a lady one evening and they exchanged contact and things moved pretty quickly.
And the next day he invited her over, then they slept together, spent time and ended up spending the night.
Then according to him, what he's saying is that after that night, everything in his life started to go downhill.
As in, he lost his job, his finances crashed, things have not been stable since he met the lady.
Now he's confused and he's wondering that this encounter might have something to do with his downfall.
So we really want to hear from you. Do you think it's actually possible for someone to come into your life and affect you that kind of way?
Probably. Because I feel some people, like, when you're not meant to be with someone, some people are bad men in your life. So whenever you mingle with that kind of a person, everything can go sideways way. And sometimes it actually happens in a good way, whereby you meet someone new and your life starts getting better.
But you know that in this story, he said that he met her, like this was the first time he ever met her, and immediately he met her, and they had something, together, and then he just feels like, oh, that was what affected him. So, do you think that this is really about the woman, or could it just be his own choices catching up with him?
I don't know how to put this. I'm not like a, how would I put it?
Spiritual person.
Yes, I am not a spiritual person. But then I do, like, I've actually seen some people whereby when someone comes into their life, things start going the wrong way. And it might just be, okay, let's say that is when karma is supposed to catch up to you. And bad things are happening to you. It cannot actually be the spiritual thoughts and stuff like that. So maybe it was because of what they had, maybe not. So it's just the probability.
Okay, so a lot of people believe that the kind of people you mingle with can either make you or break you. It can either elevate you or bring you down. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I strongly agree with that. Especially with friendships. Forget relationships. Friendships too works that way. You can meet people that are going to bring you down, and you can meet people that actually lift you higher.
That was a very interesting take, Ms. Rukoya. But in this case, everything happened just with one encounter. So do you think that that's enough to cause such a big shift? Because he said he lost his job, he lost money, he lost opportunities. So another key thing he mentioned was that she wore a lot of waist beads. So he was trying to think maybe it was due to it was a spiritual attack or something. Do you think it's spiritual attack or something else?
I said earlier, I am not a spiritual believer, but it is actually a little bit believable that it might be spiritual because everything happened just in a day. Let's say immediately she left 24 hours later, you lost your job, everything crashed and stuff like that. It does not make sense to the ear.
Exactly.
Like, it doesn't sound right. So probably we can try and say, let's justify it using spiritual thoughts.
I personally, I wouldn't say we should. Just like you said, you're not a spiritual person. I'm also not a spiritual person. So I don't feel like because the lady you met with is wearing waist beads means she brought bad moments to you. So let's flip it a bit. Do you think sometimes people use situations like this to avoid taking responsibilities for their own actions?
I know, like, there's this particular kind of weird stigma. Some families, or let's say parents, believe that, oh, if you are putting on waist beads, it is bad. And some guys too, they don't even associate with ladies putting on waist beads. Like or something. Yeah, they feel like, oh, we are trying to trap them. That's because, okay, I'm not even trying to like sugarcoat anything. In the north, it is something they do. They use the waist beads to charm their husbands, to keep them locked in and stuff like that. So definitely, I know like you're not a spiritual person. I am also not a spiritual person. But if a normal person will just walk up to you and be like, I met this girl today,
You definitely think it's
and everything just crashed for me
Yeah.
and stuff like that. There is no logical way to explain it. I don't think there's a scientific way either. It's just spiritual. Even though we are not spiritual believers,
Yeah.
but it's just something that you cannot just believe when someone tells you, oh, I met this guy, I lost everything at once, and you're just going to know that, oh, it is normal.
But in your opinion, though, would you say that this is more of a coincidence or a consequence? Because it's like, what if him meeting her that particular time, like, she's not the one that even did anything, but it just because of it was supposed to happen.
Yeah,
it was
it
his
was
fate, it
bound
was
to
his
happen to
destiny. But then just because of he met her at that exact time when that thing was supposed to happen, and then he's like, oh, she's the one that caused
And
it.
she was very miserable.
Is it because of she's a woman, or is it because of she's a, what would I call it, a night worker? Do you think that his perspective is just based on the kind of work she does, or on, like I said earlier, the ways which she was putting on, like all these things?
Sometimes people try to like pinpoint blame onto someone. So let's say maybe those things were actually happening already, but it has not gotten to that extent. So he now used that as an opportunity to just be like, oh, it's all our fault, to put the blame on her. Maybe he was actually doing something wrong that made all those things go the wrong way. Then it just happened to be a coincidence that it was after they did whatever they did, then it became much worse.
That's actually a very, very interesting perspective.
Okay, yeah. Moving on. Why do you think people are quick to attach emotional or mysterious meanings to situations instead of looking at practical explanations?
Okay, let me just say, we Africans, especially Nigerians, we are like, out of 100% of us, let's say 80% are very spiritual. Even while growing up, there are a lot of spiritual things. Their mom will be like, oh, don't go outside in the night, don't do this. If you there are a lot of spiritual beliefs and norms and stuff like that. So I feel most people have grown up with that kind of spiritual beliefs. They don't really try to see some situations in a practical manner. They always feel like everything is spiritual and has a spiritual meaning to it. You can see Christians always interpreting things happening to them. They like run to their pastor, spiritual. Muslims do the same thing. They run to their imam, spiritual. Nobody tries to like say, okay, this problem can actually just be a normal, let's just say, social problem, or something that's just generally happening, just like that.
I actually understand your point, but I feel like in this case, I don't think there's anything practical about it. I feel like everything surrounding this particular case is spiritual. Whether you are a spiritual person or not, I feel like everything surrounding it is spiritual. I know we often hear of things like, oh, there's mommy water, or there's water spirits, and all of that. We all know it's not only humans that is on the earth. And people will be like, oh, this girl, she's a water spirit. So I actually feel like this particular case is somewhat kind of, spiritual, because it cannot just be a coincidence that everything started happening to him.
But at the same time, we also need to understand that it could also be a consequence of something he's done. Not necessarily in a spiritual manner, more of like maybe the next day he had lost his job. Okay, the next day the reason why he lost his job was because he was not doing well at work, and his boss had gotten enough of like everything he was doing, or he was not keeping up to tabs with what he was doing. So his boss was like, okay, I think I need to let you go.
But do you know that if he was not doing well in his job and they actually let him go, he will not lose his finances that same day or that same week?
What if he had lost it, gradually? Because the story did not necessarily tell us, okay, I lost it this specific day, I lost it this specific time. It did say that he lost his things and he lost it, but we did not get like a time frame of how or when or whatever situation it is that he lost these things. So I can understand why you guys are going towards like the spiritual aspect. But at the same time, I want us to understand that things happen in life. Like people lose their jobs, they lose their houses. Sometimes people that are homeless on the streets, it's not necessarily the about spiritual attacks or things like that. Sometimes they just lose their things in one whole day like this due to all the other things they've been doing in the past. One day everything just comes crashing down and they lose everything. So I think we need to also put that into consideration.
For me, I actually feel like if that kind of thing is happening to you as a person, or your village people don't shake your bottle, like something just happened. It can't just happen at once. God does not hate you that much to just let everything crumble for you. I mean, it has happened before, like in the Bible, but I don't think it will just happen like that to you at once. Do you understand? Yeah.
But we also want to hear from you guys watching. What do you think about this particular story?
Let us know in the comments, and tune in every Wednesday and Sundays for new episodes on the KNTV Talk Show.
Bye.